Hello and welcome, I'm Tafara Gadamu. My guest today, Dr. Judith Reichman, an author and a leading voice in women's health in the United States, and Dr. Eileen Kennedy, another voice in nutrition in that country, have been visiting the Dolado refugee camp and other project sites in this country. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start with Dolado. That seems to be quite a destination for visitors. Who from the UN, international NGOs, and so on. What have you observed?
Well, first of all, as far as I know, I was the first person from Los Angeles to get there. And I came specially to see it because I wanted to see how we are dealing with it, both the Ethiopian government and Save the Children, on one of the greatest humanitarian crises we've ever had. And when I got there, I was quite impressed with what both ARA, the Ethiopian government, and Save the Children has done. There is an influx, as you know, of about 120,000 refugees. 85% of them are women and children, and I was able to go to the pre-registration transit and one of the first camps called Halloween and see what they were doing. And these are individuals, and each one has a story. These are mostly women who have come with 4 children, 6 children. Some have walked for 3 days. Some have walked for as much as 29.
Stories of despair.
And stories of despair, stories of, I had to come or I would die. Part of it was the drought, clearly, and part of it was the conflict that was going on. And as they came, they were registered. They were provided nutrition. The children started to have schooling. They were taken care of health-wise. They were put in tents. They had homes. They could congregate. There were protective services for the children. And I was highly impressed with what was going on. I was here 8 years ago, and compared to what you had in the green famine or the green drought, and what's going on now is just day and night. I was very impressed with the programs that have been set up by ARA, by Save the Children, and the other NGOs that were there.
Are you saying that this is not an unbecoming site like you normally find in refugee camps that have been put together so quickly because refugee camps cross borders?
It's a very difficult place to be, and the conditions are still, for a Westerner, terrible. But considering where these people came from and what was given to them, I thought they were doing a very good job. It is a humanitarian crisis that we haven't seen before. It's huge. And one of the reasons I came was to bring visibility back to the United States and bring the care that is needed to help assist the Ethiopian government deal with this.
I know that you've never been to Dolado, right?
That's correct, I have not.
You haven't been to Dolado, but in situations like this, nutrition is quite a factor, is it not?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean,
when you talk about children in particular.
About half the deaths that occur are associated with poor nutritional status. But we also, I mean, one of the reasons I'm in Ethiopia at the moment is to look at a new project called ENGINE, with Save the Children. ENGINE stands for, these acronyms are, ENGINE stands for Empowering New Generations for Improved Nutrition and Economic Opportunities. And I think, you know, while the crisis obviously has gained a lot of attention, appropriately so, and government and international institutions need to deal with the crisis, we shouldn't forget prevention and instilling proper nutrition in young children, because it's prevention that's going to lead to health and wellness of children and women in Ethiopia. So it's both. I mean, it's both dealing with the crisis situation, but let's also think about strategies we know that are tried and true that can instill good nutrition in pregnant women, newborns, children.
So all these strategies somehow applied for example, in the refugee centers that you've visited?
Well, they're starting to apply them.
Some
and
of the pictures
obviously,
that I've seen.
nutrition is very important. They are able to identify those that are severely malnourished, moderately malnourished, those with complications with severe malnutrition, and then they can give them the appropriate therapy. They're feeding the children right now. Save the Children, for example, is feeding about 8,000 children in the camps. They're given the nutrition they need. There's much more that needs to be done, but at least they're not seeing the deaths that could have occurred with this population coming in. There was a time in July that in the beginning, there would be 15 deaths a day. Now there can be none. There's really a tremendous improvement in how they're caring and they're identifying both the children and the women. You have to understand that many of these children are being breastfed by the women, and if the women don't get appropriate nutrition, then obviously the children will be severely malnourished. So it starts with the women. We also found that they're organizing women committees so that the women have some say in what's happening in the camp. And then Save the Children has child protection programs, and they have child identification programs. Many of the children come in without an adult with them who is a family member. So what Save the Children does is identify these children, get some history of these children, takes their picture, and then if a parent or a family relative were to come looking for their child, they could find it, or they're finding foster families for these children.
Are they?
Yes. And do you know that it's an honor to be a foster parent? So it's not that they pay them, it's not that they give them something in return. They feel honored to be foster parents. It's quite touching.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking about this. You know, a lot of the malnutrition that we think about, we think about what I would call wasting, which is a low weight for age. But a lot of the malnutrition throughout Ethiopia is what I call hidden. And I say that because about half the children, a little bit less than half the children in Ethiopia are stunted. And stunted is a low height for age. And unless you know how old a child is, you wouldn't know they were stunted. And recently, I was asked to take a picture of 3 children. You know how kids love their picture taken. One was this tall, second was this tall, and the third was this tall. So 2 about the same height. The age of this child, the tallest child, was 7, then 4, and then 7. So there was a 7-year-old, one this height, one that height, and you'd have no idea unless you knew their age that child was stunted. And I think this is really a challenge for the country. How do we invest in proven nutrition interventions early on, before age 2, such that we're dealing both with the acute malnutrition but also the chronic, which is a huge problem in the country?
And if you don't treat the chronic malnutrition, these children will never reach their potential. If you don't treat them at the age of 1, 2, they will never be able to be what they could be. The future is not there for them. So it's starting at an early age, both with nutrition and with early education.
What would the right dose of nutrition be, in your opinion? Not the standard one that you find in the U.S. I mean, we're talking about constraints in developing countries like Ethiopia.
Well,
we'll never be able to avail what is necessary for the
You know, that's not actually, it's interesting because we have a program that we call positive deviance. And what that means is in any community, doesn't matter how poor, how at risk, there are always individuals, women and children who you'd predict would do poorly but are doing well. And the question is, why are they doing well? And if we understand the variables in a local community, then community by community we can build on those success stories. And first blush, let me tell you, one of the interventions I would stress is investment both in women before they become pregnant and during pregnancy. Birth weight is one of the single strongest predictors of how a child is going to do after the first couple of years of life. So by investing, and I think Dr. Judy was saying this, by investing in prenatal care, and a part of that being appropriate nutrition, you're putting neonates and children off to a good start.
So you think the $53 million that the lead partner is Save the Children, USAID, Save the Children, in partnership with the Ethiopian government, you think it would address even the tip of the iceberg?
I do, because it's we've learned a lot. And one aspect we've learned is, in order to be successful, you have to start with existing institutions and existing infrastructures in a country. You can't pour money into a country and just with new initiatives that can't be maintained. And we know Ethiopia has been successful in bringing down, again, stunting rates from 52% to 44%. And we know some of the interventions that have been successful. Exclusive breastfeeding. And I think sometimes people don't realize exclusive breastfeeding means nothing other than breast milk. No water, no tea with sugar, just breast milk. Behavioral change campaigns targeted to mothers on, after 6 months of age, appropriate complementary feeding. What are the mix of foods that should be in there? Micronutrient interventions, giving iron, zinc, vitamin A. So there's a lot going on that has been successful. What we're trying to do in Engine is scale it up to reach more of the population in the country.
It's all about changing the mindset of people, is it not? Because there are preconceived notions that people have been living with for ages, and it would be very difficult to change that. And that's what I think many interventions, in a way, have failed, because they usually focus on the hardware and tend to pay little attention to the software. Once the intervention, once the partners are gone,
well, but the Ethiopian government, number one, is stable. And number two, I think the health ministry understands what needs to be done. They're building a very good infrastructure. They have the health clinics throughout the country. They have the extension health workers. They're training them. I think that it's a question of getting these health workers out there. The women are receptive. Yes, there have been traditions that have not been perhaps the healthiest and have not established intra-uteral health for the child. But I think that once they're given this opportunity, once they're told this is good for your baby, they care, they'll do it. They're happy and they're receptive. And as long as you have a safety net, and as long as you have the health facility and the training for the health practitioners who go out to the surrounding areas, you're going to make a lot of progress. And I hate to talk about tip of an iceberg, because there's an expression in America that we say, inch by inch, life's a cinch. So you start somewhere, and if you don't start, you'll never get any place. So is it a tip? I don't think so. I think if we can work with the government, and if we can have programs such as Engine and Save the Children can help with education and nutrition, I think that we're starting at the base and we're working up.
And I think the key there is what I call political will on the part of the country, and they're clearly at this point committed to investing in nutrition. So that combination of community programs which need to be supported and enhanced, but also support of the government. And your comment earlier about why will people change, I think people change when they see success stories. Let me give you another example. I like to personalize it. I lived with my children in very rural areas of Kenya, down near the Tanzanian border. And my second daughter went with me for the first time when she was 6 weeks old. And once a week I would weigh her with this portable scale. I'd hook it onto a tree and weigh her. And the local mothers would see me doing that, and they thought, oh, she looked like a big, healthy baby. She was 50 percentile. But anyway, so when I was weighing Rachel, other mothers come along and say, will you weigh my baby? And we began tracking the weights of their children. And then by doing that, we're able to identify children whose growth was faltering and then do something about it. That was, the mothers in the community saw that as success. It was a very low technology intervention.
Mm-hmm. If you let women know what they can do for the health of their families, you will have an amazing impact. If you simply give a directive and it's not on a family basis and it's not through the women, your impact will be far less.
So you need to bring aboard traditional institutions that are very important in bringing change, because you're talking earlier on that if you tell people what to do, they'll never be able to do it.
You can't just tell them.
So what are the factors at play at that level, particularly women? You know, we are talking about, as you usually say, a patriarchal society, and we're talking about women who have never been economically empowered.
I wouldn't exclude men. I mean, I think that it's important. Although
no, we do feel they're important.
Yes. The intervention starters was women and children.
You're talking to one.
No, it's important. It's important to to involve the family, and I think a part of the awareness campaign that we're talking about is awareness across the board, having parents mothers and fathers understand how critical nutrition is in the early years. Investing in nutrition, your children will do better in school. They'll wind up in better professions. They'll wind up earning higher incomes. They'll be healthier. And that's a message for parents, not just for mothers.
Also, early education. There have been recent articles